Hi, this is Billie with the Gail Borden Public Library, and we'll be going live at 7 o'clock tonight to make hoop art. Tonight at 7, we'll be learning how to make little hoop art into embroidery hoops, different images and things that you can make to decorate your wall or to give as gifts. And we'll be going live in just 1 minute at 7 o'clock. What you'll need is an embroidery hoop, fabric or felt, and I'm using both. You can also use anything else that you're interested in, like yarn or embroidery floss and anything else that you want to sew on. So it's 7 o'clock, and hi, I'm Billie Moffat with the Gail Borden Public Library, and tonight we'll be doing hoop art. We'll be making this I'll be making this beautiful little inspiration. I was thinking of what to make in my hoop and what image did I want to do. Did I want to do butterflies or a tree and a hill? And I was thinking back to my trip last June to Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons in Wyoming, and I thought about making a mountain scene. Mountains and grass and trees with embroidery floss, fabric, and felt. It's super simple, and we're going to get started and make this today. So all you need is an embroidery hoop, and I have a large one here. I just dropped a piece of felt, so I have a large one here, but you can use a small one. Any size will do. You'll need some tracing paper. I'm going to be using a little bit of hot glue. I have felt and fabric here in different colors. And I am using embroidery floss today to sew. But you can use thread or anything else that you have on hand. Mostly this summer, the spring and summer, as I've been crafting on Facebook Live, I've been trying to use things that I have in the house and that I don't have to buy at the store. So things that you could just use lying around. And this is what I had today. So let's turn down the camera and let's get started. So I'm just going to move the camera down. And let's get started. So I started out by tracing the hoop, the inside of the hoop, two sides. So I knew the size of picture I wanted. And I drew a rough sketch of what I thought of mountains and grass and trees at the bottom. Then I traced it using my tracing paper so I could see the pattern better. Next, I'm going to take another sheet, or actually 2 sheets of tracing paper, and I'm going to make the patterns for what to cut out. So I'm going to start out with my mountains. And you can use any color that you want. I'll be using red so it's easier for you to see. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace my big mountain right here. And I'm going to trace all of the edge that will be exposed. And then, as it goes down, I want it to overlap a little to give me sewing space. And then I will just trace it like that. And I will label this number 1. Next, I want to do the little mountain here. And this is the side that's exposed. And I want it to overlap here. I want this big mountain to overlap this. So I'm going to put it a little, I'm going to put a little on the side. And I'm going to go down and around. And this one will be number 2. See, I can't quite write 2 upside down. So number 2. And this will be my 3rd mountain right here. So I'm going to trace the side that I want to be the edge. And I'll go down and over because I want it to be exposed. down about a 1/2 inch. Oops. And then that one will be my number 3. Next, I'm going to take my second sheet of paper and I'm going to trace the greenery. Trace the green part. I'm going to go past it just a little. Over and around. And this one will be number 1. And then I have my second piece here. Go over 1/2 inch so they're laps. And that one will be number 2. And then my last piece here, make it a little bigger. That one will be number 3. Just so I can have an idea of what I'm cutting. Next, I want to cut out my patterns. And here I have my general craft scissors that I use to cut paper with. I'm going to cut this bottom piece out. Cutting it out so I can use it as a pattern, just like a sewing pattern. There we go. Move these aside. And here is my pattern for my number 3 grass, which is going to be this pattern. But I want it to be horizontal, so I'll move it that way. For things like felt that's sticky, you can just stick it on and cut. But with this cotton fabric is going to be a little trickier, so I will pin it just like a pattern when you're making clothes. Now I'm going to switch my scissors to my fabric scissors. If you don't have a pair of fabric scissors, I highly suggest investing in a pair, even a cheap pair that you just keep for fabric, and it will make cutting fabric like butter. If you have a pair of all-purpose scissors that you're using to cut paper with and fabric, that paper is dulling your scissors and you won't get as nice a cut or as seamless of a cut. A nice pair of fabric scissors that are kept just for fabric will do you a world of good. I have even seen people want to protect their fabric scissors and put a little padlock on them between the handles so people can't use them for just anything. And there we go. Put this aside and close my scissors back up because I want to keep the point protected. I'll just take out my pins. And there's my last piece of fabric. Now I pre-cut all the fabric and I'm using this blue piece of felt for the base, and now I'm going to build up all of my pieces that I've already cut out. I'm going to start out with my big mountain, where I want that to be. And now this piece, figure out where I want to put that. See, I traced it in blue. I'm not a big fan of drawing on fabric that I'm going to sew on, but this will be better for an idea of where it's all going to fit. Next, I have my little gray mountain. And then I have my dark green tree line. Do it this way. And then last minute, I decided to change from this being the bottom fabric to this being the middle one, to break up the pattern of felt and fabric. So I have this. I'll just adjust it to how I want it to look. I think I want to skirt this up just a little, and that's the good thing about this. You could make little microscopic adjustments so that your artwork looks like the way you want it to look. And there we go. Now I'm going to sew all of this fabric tonight, but you are more than welcome to glue it down or to use stitch witchery to iron it in place. But I like to sew it on to give it a little extra dimension. Now I already threaded all of my needles, so I'd be prepared, because I am having trouble seeing the needle head right now. Fun times. The little things that happen as you age. Now I can't see the needle, so I just threaded the needle through, and I generally don't knot my sewing, but you're more than welcome just to knot it. I'm just going to hold it in place. And what I'm going to do is just a modified herringbone stitch. I'm just going to do X's, doing it in and going back towards my last stitch. So I go up and I put the needle in towards my last stitch, and it makes a little X. When you do this, things don't have to be perfect. If you want it to look a little more textured, because mountains are not perfect, they are rough and jagged. I just love the idea of the mountains. They're so beautiful, especially the big, huge ones like in the Grand Tetons. Last year when we visited, I said something to my husband before we got there, because he never has been to the mountains before. And I said, I will never get over the mountains. They are just so beautiful. I will never get over them. And he understood the first time we went over a rise and the giant mountains were ahead of us. They are just so breathtakingly beautiful. It is hard to get over them. And I think about that when I make this art today, that it's jagged and not perfect, but it's all gonna work out and be beautiful. Just doing a modified herringbone stitch. Putting needle in and towards my last stitch, and that will help me get the X that I'm looking for. And making the stitches. And you're always going to go a little farther than you think, because you don't want it to be empty or be loose. I started way off the pattern, and I'm going to go farther than I think that I need to here. Do one more. Just going to end it here, and instead of knotting it, I'm just going to anchor it with an extra little stitch that I'm not going all the way through, but I'm just grabbing some of the felt. I'm just going to, actually I'm not going to cut there, I'm just going to keep going. So now I'm going to place this down, and I'll move this over to where I wanted this to be. Does it all look, still looks right? So I'm going to move this of my sandwich over, and now I'm going to sew this on. And for this stitch, I'm going to do a blanket stitch. So I am going to put holding this down. I'm going to put the needle in down here at the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go straight across. I'm going to go a diagonal. So I'm going over and down. And then I'm going to come up right here. So I put the needle in there and I came up outside of it. And what I'm going to do is just grab the thread right here and pull it taut. Whoops, I didn't get all of those threads there. Just scoop it in. And there you go, a blanket stitch. It goes over and down. So again, I'm going to go over and down. I'm going to put my needle in. I'm going to pull up there. I'm going to grab my stitch here so it goes over. And then there you go. Pull it up, a little blanket stitch. If you pull too tight, it will drag down. So you just want to play around till you have the nice sense of how to make that stitch. Go around, grab it, move the fabric so it's in front of me. Don't feel afraid to move your fabric around and make the piece work for you as you're stitching. Little crafts like this are fun to do with things you find around your house. Scraps of fabric, little extra pieces of felt. What can you make with what you have right now? I know it's exciting to go to the craft store and buy new treats, new markers and new kits, but what can you make with what you have already? I've made so much already this spring and summer with things I've just found around the house. Well, and today I got some of this fabric from stuff I've had at the library where I work with teens, and I've taught them how to sew, making bags and bags out of books, like little book purses and skirts, things that they can make, easy pillows. Also, a fun thing to do with hoop art is to use pillow stuffing and make one of your things a little fluffy and stick out. That's always a fun thing to do. What else can you do to embellish your hoop art? You can use pipe cleaners and sew those or glue those on. Use yarn and different embellishments. Do you have beads or other kinds of trims sitting around? And my favorite thing to add, which are buttons. Buttons are so versatile and easy to add to things like this. I could have added little button trees or button bushes. I'm just going around my mountain here. I liked this fabric because it reminded me of a snow-capped mountain. And that's why I chose this fabric. Well, it looks like we're winding down our time, and I'll just keep sewing this to finish this piece. I stretched it, and I put it in the fabric. I put it in the loop, and I pulled it taut, so it's nice and taut. And I just sewed with the herringbone stitch, the blanket stitch, and then I just did a running stitch, and I repeated that for my next two. On the back, I finished it up by stretching a piece of felt that I traced from the inside of the loop and glued down with hot glue. A fun thing to do with hot glue when you're going to do this is to glue it on one side, stretch it and glue it on the other and hold it down, and then work your way around piece by piece until you get the whole thing done. Do it from opposite ends and that will make it taut and stretched like this. Now make sure if you're doing that and you're holding it down that you're using cold temperature glue and you're not using a hot temperature glue gun because you'll burn yourself. So let me just move the camera back up. So thank you so much for joining me making this mountain view hoop art. You know, you can check out books on hoop art and other crafts at the Gail Borden Public Library. We're open this week, so that's incredible. We are open for our hours starting at 9 o'clock. Tomorrow we'll be open from 9 to 5 at the main library, and check our website for the hours at the Rayco branch and South Elgin branch as well. Come and check out all the craft books that you can check out, as well as movies, videos, and other things that we have, and hop on the computers. And we're still answering questions by text and by email and over the phone. So please, if you have any questions, don't feel afraid to ask a librarian. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great weekend, and don't forget to make something awesome.